Good morning. Welcome to the Kingsport News Hour, the 16th year of Changi, the 7th month and the 10th day already by the heavenly calendar. Yes, days are moving along quite quickly. It's already a third of the way through the 7th month. Right, we have 3 weeks from today, on the 22nd of September, so we have the first day of the 8th month. Let's see, this month on the heavenly calendar, 7th month has 30 days. I'm looking at it now, 30 days. All right, let's go. Let's go take our tour around the kingdom to see what is going on. And right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee, It is 58 degrees, and partly cloudy, getting up to 75 today. Areas of fog this morning, otherwise partial sunshine with a shower in places this afternoon. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a stray thunderstorm, low of 57. Father's hometown, Cheongju, North Pyongan province, in what is now North Korea, currently 72 and getting down to 65 tonight. Clear now and remaining clear through the night and humid also. Tomorrow, very warm and humid, plenty of sunshine, high of 87. At the Cheongung Palace, Northeast Pennsylvania, currently 46 and mostly cloudy. Yeah, looks like autumn is coming there. And getting up to 77 today, a shower in the area this morning, otherwise partly sunny, a nice afternoon for outdoor activities on the Labor Day, right, holiday, so that's great. And tonight, clear to partly cloudy, low of 49. At the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, currently 72 with fog, 86 for a high today, more clouds than sun, humid with a thunderstorm in spots, 68 for a low tonight, clear and humid. Suncheon Palaces, or the palace in the Suncheon, Korea, currently 81 with some clouds, clear to partly cloudy, warm and very humid. Tonight, getting down to 76. Tomorrow, high of 90 degrees, cloudy, very warm and very humid. Occasional rain and a thunderstorm in the morning, followed by a thunderstorm in the afternoon. And then at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, currently 91, partly cloudy, 76 for a low tonight, clear, warm, very humid tomorrow, very hot, 99 for a high on the 2nd of September tomorrow, with sunshine mixing with some clouds, a thunderstorm in spots in the afternoon, 99, wow. And then in Ilan, Taiwan, in the Republic of China, currently 85 and overcast, and getting down to 78 tonight, overcast this evening with a couple of thunderstorms, then partly cloudy. 95 for a high tomorrow, mostly cloudy and hot, a thunderstorm in 1 or 2 spots in the afternoon. Right, so it looks like the palaces in Gunma are taking the prize for the high temperature tomorrow. Let's go to Father's Word, and I'm going to go back to the Cheonseongo today, because, well, the other one is kind of out of reach there. Okay. And let me just mark this page so I can come back to it, because I'm actually preparing the content for next Monday. All right. Where are we? We're in the book on sin and restoration through indemnity, chapter 2. And chapter 2 is titled Sin and the Internal Meaning of the Human Fall. Part 1. And let's see, let's go here. Part 1 here, and 1.1. So God said that they could eat of the fruits of all the trees in the garden, but they could not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil that was in the middle of the garden, in the center. So what does that mean? Dr. Yun, Dr. Yun. This Yun was suddenly skips my mind. Dr. Yun. Anyway, this is the friend that he met at Busan when he came down from North Korea. And he was actually standing on the street there begging, with a cup in his hand. And he knew Dr. Yun from Japan, from his days as a student when he was studying at Waseda University in Japan. And Dr. Yun recognized him. So, Dr. Yun, what are the other trees? And what is this, a tree of the life? And what is the tree of good and evil? They're all the same trees. So what are the other trees aside from the tree of life and tree of good and evil? I'm asking you, So so what God meant was that as long as you are living as a brother and sister, you can, touch each other's hands or, um, and you could sort of sort of hold hands and you could, because she's beautiful, you could do something. I think he means maybe give a peck on the cheek or something like that. But you can do all that. So those are the other trees he's saying here. Those are the other trees. So what Father's saying here is that the other trees are not banana trees and apple trees and peach trees. These other trees represented other things that Adam and Eve could do. So they could hold hands. Maybe and Adam could say, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and give her a peck on the cheek or something like that. But the knowledge, the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, he said you must not look at it or touch it. Do you know what that is? So you can touch everything else, but that one place you cannot touch. That's what God was saying. That's how you should interpret it. Okay, so great. Yeah, thank you, Father, for this word. Yeah, never really thought of it that way. We always thought that, okay, well, there are other trees. Maybe there are coconut trees. Maybe there are other trees, in the garden, right? But Father's saying, well, you could understand it this way. Maybe there were coconut trees and peach trees and orange trees and so forth. But Father was saying, yeah, what God was saying is you could do everything else. You can touch everything else. Just don't touch this. Okay. All right, moving on before we get into trouble here. All right. Okay, so China is in the spotlight. China is in the spotlight, has been in the spotlight the last couple of days and continues to be in the spotlight for the next couple of days. A couple of things going on there. And one is the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And this is an organization that basically gathers the Central Asian countries and also Russia and also some Western Asian countries, Iran and stuff like that. And also India has been invited there, and some Southeast Asian countries, I think, are attending. About 26 countries in all, I think, both members and guests and observers and stuff like that. But basically, it's anti-Trump rally is basically what it is. China is trying to present itself as an alternative world leader, and these countries are going to China and say, "Oh, please help us. Trump is not allowing us to take advantage of the United States as we become accustomed to doing. So you got to help us here." Well, of course, China itself is not doing all that well. China is in for a while, its economy has been in a deflationary state. And, as I've mentioned, in a free economy, deflation is the natural state because you have improvement in processes and competition and so forth. And so you would expect that prices would go down in a free economy. But countries today are desperately afraid of deflation. Why? Because they all have debts. And in a deflationary economy, savers win, debtors lose. Right now we have an inflationary economy. Savers lose, debtors win. And the biggest debtor of all, of course, is the United States, China, Japan. These countries are the huge debtors. So they're definitely afraid of deflation because deflation will increase the value of their debts. So China has been in a deflationary situation now for a while, and they're trying to come out of it, but they're not doing a very good job of it. And so So it's not really clear what this weekend's events are actually going to produce in terms of concrete results. Are they going to be able to form a anti-Trump alliance, or is this just a kind of what do you call it? Kind of a crying session, which I think it probably is. Basically, it's them getting together and sharing their kind of a therapy session, I guess, sharing their difficulties and all the things that that big bad Trump is doing against them and stuff like that. And what shall we do? What shall we do? What should we do? And wringing their hands, and then going home without a whole lot of concrete results. China is sort of, I guess, Xi Jinping in particular is gaining some political points, some diplomatic points from this. They're able to, China in general is able to kind of present itself as the anti-Trump, sort of a leader of a new world order, which they call multipolar world order. And watching some of the footage, I was surprised to see Xi Jinping say, "Yeah, we need to work to increase democracy in the world." And he said this when he was when there was this meeting going on between China and India. India is largely known as the largest democracy in the world. So I just wonder what was going through Prime Minister Modi's mind when Xi Jinping told him to his face that China was going to work for greater democracy in the world. Okay, well, kudos to Prime Minister Modi for keeping a straight face and not breaking out in laughter. But as we've said often, the communists have their own definition of democracy. And democracy means that, of course, that everyone is loyal to the Communist Party. That's what democracy means. Oh, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Anyway, so and also, let's see, Kim Jong-un got on a train just a few hours ago, I think, and is currently on his way by train to Beijing. And that's actually quite a lengthy train ride. And he's expected to arrive in maybe about 6, 7, or 8 hours from now. It's more than a 10 or 12-hour train ride. And this will be the first time that Kim Jong-un has been able to participate in a kind of a first time in a long time that he's been able to participate in a multilateral diplomatic occasion. And so he's gaining a lot of political points from this at home, I'm sure, just by being there, right? So regardless of what may come of the event, just by being there and just by, I think on the 3rd, day after tomorrow, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, and Putin are going to be standing on the Tiananmen gate, right? And they'll be reviewing troops passing before them and stuff like that. And for Kim Jong-un to be able to stand there along with Xi Jinping and Putin is going to be a big thing for him. And it shows that it will show that North Korea has, as a result of its participation in the Ukraine war, has been able to elevate its status in diplomatic affairs, at least in the anti-Trump world, in the anti-America, anti-West world. So Kim Jong-un, I'm sure, is right now, as he's in his train, he's in a very good mood there. Yeah. We're watching to see whether he's taking his daughter, and I think we're not really certain of that. Any sort of footage that you've seen of this, I think maybe old footage. We'll have to see. And I saw one person say, "Oh well, if she goes with him, that'll just solidify her position as the successor." I disagree. I agree with this North Korean defector, this Charles guy. He has a YouTube channel, Charles North Korea, something like that. And he says that his opinion is that Kim Jong-un keeps his daughter by his side simply because he's lonely. and he does not expect that the daughter will take over after Kim Jong-un passes from the scene. And I agree with that. I think it's far more probable that Kim Yo-jong, the little sister, will take over, or if both of if Kim Jong-un and Kim Yo-jong are both somehow not available, then they may come up with, I mean, they could come up with anybody and say, hey, this is actually Kim Jong-un's secret son, because the people of North Korea don't know the actual family tree of Kim Il Sung. All right, so they could grab somebody off the street and claim that this is Kim Il Sung's or Kim Jong Un's secret son or something like that. So but I think it is far more probable that something like that will happen, or perhaps a committee of the military may rule or something like that. But the daughter, I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. I think basically her job is to keep Kim Jong Un, her father, happy. Not in that sense, okay. Not in that sense. I don't think. I don't know, but no, I think just keep him company and laugh at his jokes and sort of give him a peck on the cheek once in a while or something like that. I think that's probably her role. Anyway, I don't expect her to be the successor. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, that's the thing about, like I say, I like North Korea because you can say anything and nobody can prove you wrong. Nobody can prove you wrong. At least not in the short term. All right, let's take a look at this story on what's going on Beijing. Okay, here it says that BRICS leaders, and I guess the BRICS leaders are there. Let me reset this so that we can get the headline in there. BRICS leaders gather in China to coordinate anti-Trump alliance. Yeah, and I think that's probably a big deal, a big part of what's going on there, trying to coordinate some sort of an anti-Trump alliance. And there's a photograph of all the people who are participating. Let me see. Okay, here we go. See, and their wives, or at least some of their wives. It looks like Putin there. Yeah. And Modi there, you can tell him by his costume. It's hard to tell who the others are. Who are these guys on the side? Of course, that's Xi Jinping and his wife in the middle. All right. So let's see here. The EU's 27 foreign ministers will debate the option of, let me get this bigger now so that you can follow along. Okay. The EU's 27 foreign ministers will debate the option of seizing Russia's frozen $200 billion at an informal gathering in Copenhagen as the leading BRICS nations gather in Beijing to form a common strategy to deal with U.S. trade aggression on August 30th. All right, so this story has been written from Berlin. Interesting place to write this from. Okay. The leaders of three of the world's four most powerful nations met in China this weekend. So, they throw the word power around a lot. Three of the four. So I guess that would be China, India, and Russia, I guess is what they mean by three of the four. But how powerful actually is Russia? But anyway, okay. To discuss how to react to the upending of the international order brought forth by the U.S. under President Trump. At a Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, Chinese leader Xi Jinping welcomed Russian President Vladimir Putin and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along others, who together represent the majority of humanity alive today. Well, let's see. I don't think that's true. Among others, I see. Okay, all right. So they're putting all 26 countries together. All right, sure. I guess if Indonesia is there, Indonesia has more, has a lot of people, and so okay. Maybe that's true. China's leader Xi Jinping laid out Beijing's ambitions for an alternative international order. when he welcomed his counterparts from Russia, India, and Iran to the 4-day security forum, where he sought to offer a contrast to U.S. President Donald Trump's global stewardship. And this is what China has been trying to do all along, right? So, hey, we can offer stability. Stability under the gun, yes. Stability and loyalty to the Communist Party, stability to the obeisance to the emperor in Beijing. Yes, that's his plan. As BNE Intelli News reported, the U.S. support of Ukraine and sanctions on Russia has pushed Putin into the arms of China. But since taking office, U.S. President Donald Trump's aggressive Liberation Day tariffs has also pushed India and Brazil into the BRICS bloc that is maturing from an informal economic bloc into a fully fledged geopolitical alliance, specifically seeking to counter the U.S.-led Western hegemony. Fully fledged geopolitical alliance, I think is open to interpretation. Moreover, those countries that were previously holding back, like Indonesia and Malaysia, have been so unsettled by the mercurial Trump administration that they have also joined them. So yeah, this guy is he's a European. Okay, so he's anti-Trump in his perspective. We can tell that. The SCO meeting in the Chinese city of Tianjin has a specific geopolitical agenda and follows on from a Gulf Cooperation Council countries, China and ASEAN summit in May, that brought together another two large emerging market blocs in what is also the world's largest economic bloc. Together, these countries have over 2 billion people, 30% of the world's GDP, and crucially, about 55% of world GDP growth in purchasing power parity terms. Okay, well, 2 billion is not half of the world population, is it? Okay. This is a group of countries that have been significantly antagonized by the West, especially by the U.S., said Yoon Sun, senior fellow at the Stimson Center, the Washington think tank, told the Financial Times. China is bringing them together and making a statement about global governance and the global order. It will be saying that we, the SCO, have a very different vision. Well, yes, he does have a very different vision, and his vision is obeisance to the Chinese Communist Party, right? And so if countries want to go with that, then I think they should be free to do so, but it clearly is a poor choice. Clearly is a poor choice, and I think that they will regret it a few years down the line. China has been biding its time as it modernized its economy, but came out and explicitly challenged the U.S. claim to lead the world with his 3-day state visit to Moscow in 2023, where the two leaders declared an unlimited partnership. Since then, China has thrown its full support behind Russia in defiance of U.S. pressure. Putin and Xi have since deepened their relationship and spelled out their vision of a new multipolar world order, most recently in an 8,000-word essay published last year. So this may push President Trump to finally start putting the screws on China. Don't you think? I hope so. I hope so. You know, when he sees China doing this, and then with the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and then 2 days from now with the military parade, and he also has a bunch of world leaders coming to that, not just Putin and Kim Jong-un, but others as well. So when Trump sees that, I hope that this will spark something in him, that he will start moving against China in a more aggressive way. I think he's been treating China with kid gloves so far, and he needs to get serious. He needs to get serious with China. And if he is able to do that, then number one, that will, I think, bring a quick end to the Ukraine war, because China will call up Russia and say, hey, you know, we got Trump breathing down our neck now, so you guys got to cool it over there in Ukraine. We can't support you anymore, this kind of a thing. For example, if Trump were to take the Chinese banks, or even one major Chinese bank, out of the dollar system, doesn't have to be all of them, just one of them, one major Chinese bank, say that, okay, this bank has been funneling money to Russia, and so we're going to deny them access to dollars. That alone will be a huge atomic bomb, financial atomic bomb against China. And I think we'll see China's tone change very quickly. Anyway, the Sino-Russian tie-up was initially derided as lopsided, as Russia would be relegated to becoming a raw material storehouse for China. But as time passes, the BRICS nations are merging into a much more coordinated and powerful political force. I don't think so. Modi's presence is key, as relations between New Delhi and Beijing have never been good and were rankled by a tense border dispute. However, the two superpowers are becoming increasingly pragmatic. China and India have been at loggerheads since the war in 1962 and last clashed along their shared border in 2020 when they were throwing rocks and sticks at each other. Yeah. Modi and Xi are pushing for a reset as trade pressures force New Delhi to bury the hatchet. All right. Had a fruitful meeting with President Xi Jinping in Tianjin on the sidelines of the SCO summit. We reviewed the positive momentum in India-China relations since our last meeting in Kazan, Modi said in a post on social media. We agreed on the importance of maintaining peace and tranquility in border areas and reaffirmed our commitment to cooperation based on mutual respect, mutual interest, and mutual sensitivity. Does this mean that China is going to stop encroaching into Indian territory, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're actually building roads and they're building facilities for soldiers in Indian territory, and India has been upset about that. So is Modi so angered by Trump that he's going to let China continue to do that? We'll see. Xi made 4 suggestions in his bilateral meeting with Modi to deepen ties between the two countries. Xi called for stronger strategic communication and deepening mutual trust, also called for expanding cooperation to achieve mutual benefits and win-win results to accommodate each other's concerns. He also called for a strengthened multilateral cooperation to safeguard common interests. Modi welcomed the suggestions. I see this reporter left out the part about increasing democracy around the world. I guess he couldn't quite keep that in there with a straight face. The two leaders also discussed the border issue as part of ongoing negotiations, and technical agreements were made to resume direct flights between the two countries. Another difficult relationship that will need to be papered over is that of Pakistan and India, who fought a brief war in May. Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif is also attending the meeting. Beijing has angered New Delhi by supplying Pakistan with advanced J-35 stealth jet fighters, but Washington has also done the same with a deal to sell Pakistan advanced F-16 fighters. This is Modi's first visit to China in 7 years, a period marked by deadlock along the Himalayan frontier, military clashes in Ladakh's Galwan Valley, and a sharp decline in trade and travel. The two leaders now say the atmosphere has changed, with Xi describing India as a partner rather than a rival, and Modi is speaking of peace and stability. On very good terms with both countries, Putin has also played an important mediating role in their relations. The growing warmth in the Sino-Indian relations starkly contrasts with the growing anger the Indians feel for Washington's hypocritical approach to trade after Trump slapped an additional 25% tariffs on India, bringing the total to 50%, to punish them for continuing to buy Russian oil. India accounts for some 38% of Russian oil exports, with China buying most of the rest. New Delhi is defying Washington and says it will continue to buy Russia's crude. So China too then. So President Trump, why isn't President Trump coming down hard on China the way that it's coming down on India, right? That's why I say he's treating China with kid gloves, and he needs to change that. The government of New Delhi issued a scathing letter pointing out that the EU and US both continue to trade with Russia, and indeed the EU's trade energy imports is far in excess of India's imports of oil. And that's actually true. And President Trump has actually pointed this out. He's saying, why should we protect you, Germany, when you are actually funneling money to Russia in exchange for their oil and gas? At the start of the war in 2022 and up to the G20 summit hosted by India 2 years ago, India remained a moderate and hoped to maintain cordial relations with both East and West. relations with Washington have dramatically deteriorated since then. In addition to Modi and Putin, Xi will be joined by about 20 other leaders at this year's summit, which will be the SCO's biggest yet, according to Chinese Communist Party media outlet Qixi. So this is actually being written a couple of days ago, and of course it's already going on, and I think it's 26 that are there. Brazil is also angry with Trump. Well, that's because Brazil is, communist now. Lula is communist, and will call an extraordinary summit of the BRICS group to discuss a coordinated response to new U.S. trade measures. President Lula da Silva's senior advisor confirmed, and Kiev Independent reported the summit is expected to take place online. Brazil holds the rotating BRICS presidency in 2025 and is seeking to use the position to forge a joint stance among members in response to Washington's growing trade restrictions. Well, they had a BRICS summit in Brazil earlier this year, and Xi and Putin did not attend. So maybe I think Lula is trying to make up for that by having an online meeting now. During the event, the country's president plans to discuss and develop a joint response by the association's members to threats to cooperation from the United States. All right, let's see here. Brazil has sought to expand its role within BRICS, okay? But, already there are people who are saying that the BRICS is showing cracks and it's not really likely to hold on much longer. And I think, if you look at, Xi did not attend BRICS summit in Brazil, and instead he's having the SCO summit in Tianjin in China. So he's saying, I'm not going to go to BRICS, but instead I'm going to have this big shindig here in China. I'm going to invite a lot of world leaders, and then also the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, the day after tomorrow. And so he's obviously, well, at least in my mind, obviously downplaying the importance of BRICS in the in China's diplomacy. And he'd rather put the emphasis on the SCO rather than on BRICS. And he said, well, Brazil and other countries, they can come and they can join the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And then that should, because that is clearly China-centered. Whereas BRICS, you got what? You got Brazil, you got Russia, you got India, you got China, and you got South Africa, and then you got, you got UAE, you got Ethiopia, all these other, no, China. I think Xi Jinping wants China to be the center. And SCO is a much better forum for that than BRICS. So I think SCO, we're going to be hearing much more about the SCO in the future and less about the BRICS. But we'll see. All right, let's see here. Okay. Well, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the U.S. And, well, this is, apparently there were some rumors going around that President Trump had passed away or something like that. But of course, that's just an attempt by the left to troll him and troll the supporters. I don't. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's see what is going on in terms of here that all right, let's go through some of these headlines together. Trump's mail-in ballot ban faces big hurdle, his own GOP. Well, I've also expressed a skepticism of that. I mean, when the Democrats are trying to federalize elections, we didn't like it. And so now Trump is trying to federalize elections in this sense. And so I don't like it. But it works both ways. The Constitution, I think, is the way that the American system is set up is that elections are run by the individual states. course, that means that not all states will do a good job. Not all counties will do a good job. But we keep it decentralized. And decentralized means that there's going to be some difference in quality from one place to another. But that's, that's all part of the system. Okay, and here require voter ID in every vote. Of course, I agree that there should be voter ID. I agree with that. But what I disagree is where you say, okay, the federal government or the president of the United States is going to issue an executive order mandating this. That's where I disagree. And Trump moving forward on War Department plans, of course, that's his business. He's the head of the executive branch. Trump to Pritzker, fix Chicago fast or we're coming. Okay. And here, judge blocks flights sending children back to Guatemala. Well, I guess we could see that coming, right? All right. Chicago mayor defies Trump's immigration crackdown. So that's basically par for the course. Okay. And here, fighting Trump's tariffs, destabilizing, right? And Trump challenges court ruling against the tariff. So an appeals court struck down his authority to impose all these tariffs that he's been imposing. And he's saying that if that stands, then America is going to be, then he's going to lose hundreds of trillions of dollars in investment, and the United States will become a third world country and all this kind of stuff. Come on. I'm a little bit doubtful of that, but yeah, it certainly would undermine his authority. And remember, we're interested in one thing, that is bringing down the Chinese Communist Party. And I think that tariffs can be a good tool in doing that. And so for that reason, I support President Trump and what he's doing here. U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit ruled Friday that Trump went too far when he declared national emergencies to justify imposing sweeping import taxes on almost every country on earth. The ruling largely upheld a May decision by a specialized federal trade court in New York, but the 7-4 appeals court decision tossed out a part of that ruling, striking down the tariffs immediately, allowing his administration time to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. So he's been given until October 14th, I believe. So Trump posted, all tariffs are still in effect. Yes. Today, a highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed, but they know the United States of America will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for the country. It would make us financially weak, and we have to be strong. The USA will no longer tolerate enormous trade deficits and unfair tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers imposed by other countries, friend or foe, that undermine our manufacturers, farmers, and everyone else. He may continue. If allowed to stand, this decision would literally destroy the United States of America. At the start of this Labor Day weekend, we should all remember that tariffs are the best tool to help our workers and support companies that produce great made-in-America products. For many years, tariffs were allowed to be used against us by our uncaring and unwise politicians. Now, with the help of the United States Supreme Court, we will use them. And so he's sort of hoping that the Supreme Court will rule in his favor. We will use them to the benefit of our nation and make America rich, strong, and powerful again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The administration believes Trump's imposition of tariffs as a trade strategy is beneficial to the country and has clear legal footing. The majority of the judges on the appeals court panel decided differently, setting up a showdown before the Supreme Court, which has supported Trump's use of the presidency to impose his policies on everything from immigration to downsizing the federal workforce. So Trump seems confident that the Supreme Court is going to support him. And even this author, who seems to be anti-Trump, is also sort of leaning in that direction, it looks like. Information from the Associated Press was used in this report. So even though this is a Newsmax article, he's depending on the Associated Press, which is really, as time goes on, becomes further and further left in. It's really a shame. It's really a shame. The Associated Press, as the name implies, is basically an association. It's a nonprofit organization that is supported by its member newspapers and TVs and other places. They all pay dues to this to the Associated Press, and they get to use the material. And so for a long time, the Associated Press at least tried to keep a facade of bipartisanship and stuff like that. But recently, no, they've completely gone to the left. They've really gone off the deep end. It's really terrible. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Sanctions punishing Russia needed to end war. Okay. And I think, sanctions punishing China. Am I the only one? Am I the only one? Surely not. Surely not. Come on, you guys. China. What? Already just what in the last article we saw that India is complaining about how they're being treated unfairly because 38%, they're importing 38% of Russian oil, and most of the remainder is being imported by China. And yet India is being punished much more severely than China. And India is complaining about this. All right. So yes. Okay. Yes, let's turn out the heat on China, of course. Why am I the only one talking about this? Well, maybe I'm sure there must be others. Come on, there must be others. President Donald Trump initially pushed for an immediate ceasefire. Whose flights? Former Trump National Security Council Chief of Staff. Okay. He moved towards a comprehensive peace deal, which he wanted quickly, and he provided some pretty significant incentives to do this. But after Putin continued with strikes on Ukraine, rejecting the ceasefire, there's no other way to get peace in Ukraine without punishing Russia and punishing it hard, Flight said. It looks like Putin's not willing to listen to reason, so we're going to have to turn to hurting Russia economically, he said. I thought we were already doing that. I thought, well, okay, all right. Trump is very close to implementing very tough oil sanctions and then economic sanctions because this does not just threaten global security, it threatens the reputation of the United States. Yes. The U.S. has said we're going to stop this war. And if it doesn't get stopped, then that's going to, yes, undermine the reputation of the United States. I mean, who's going to take U.S. seriously? So that's certainly true. Trump's not going to stand for this. And Flight also criticized European allies for not fully supporting Washington's efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Well, he said ideas such as a buffer zone or peacekeepers from neutral states could be workable. He warned that some European governments may be undercutting U.S. policy. European states may be telling Zelensky to take positions that are inconsistent with what Trump is trying to do to end the war, Flight said, noting similar advice was given before what he called Zelensky's disastrous trip to the White House in February. He added that some Democrats in Congress have also urged positions that contradict Trump's approach. We all have to work together here. We have to stand behind Trump's efforts to end this war and not give Zelensky opinions and advice that contradict what Trump is doing, Flights noted. Amen to that. Okay. But Democrats, of course, want Trump to fail, and they're doing their best to bring that about, even spreading rumors that he may be dead, this kind of thing. It's kind of ridiculous thing that they are doing. There was a time in Korea under Park Chung-hee when spreading false rumors was a crime, and you get a long jail sentence for that. Maybe something like that is necessary now. All right, let's see. Dick Morris. All right. Oh, okay. He's not sucking up to the Republicans this time. Yeah, Rudy Giuliani is injured in a New Hampshire car crash. So apparently he stopped to help a woman whose car had broken down or something, and then he was involved in a car crash as a result of doing that act of kindness. Okay. Xi slams bullying. Well, that's his favorite word in speech to leaders at summit. He's always portraying the United States as a bully, whereas, of course, the true bully is China, as we see in the South China Sea, where the China is bullying other countries into accepting their 9-dash line, and of course, bullying in Tibet, bullying in Xinjiang, bullying in the East China, or what is it, the East China Sea? Well, no, in the Yellow Sea, actually, Yellow Sea, where they are building, or at least they were building structures in waters that South Korea has an interest in. And so China is the true bully, but they're projecting their own bullying onto the United States. All right, so see here. Trump warns court against ending tariffs plan. I'm sure he will, okay. And Pope Leo meets U.S. priest known for LGBT ministry. Are we still following the Catholic Church? Okay. Ukraine police link Russia to politician's murder. This was a former speaker of their legislature or something like that who was murdered during the weekend. Yeah, parliamentary speaker. He was murdered in Ukraine, in the western city of Lviv on Saturday. And Zelensky said earlier on Monday that the suspect had been arrested for what he called a horrific murder and that impacted security in a country at war. We know that this crime was not accidental. There is Russian involvement. Everyone will be accountable before the law, the police chief said on Facebook. Russia has not commented on the killing or on the suggestion that it was involved in the incident. But I mean, if you're Russia, why this guy? He's a former speaker, right? So why would Russia do that? Okay, so it was an assassination, all right, but I'm sorry to point out that Ukraine is a corrupt country, and when you have corruption, then these kinds of things occur. Maybe he, I don't know, didn't or reneged on some bribe, or I don't know what. But there are a lot of possible explanations for this. Not necessarily Russia. It seems I don't know why Russia would want to uh, kill the former Speaker of the Parliament. Okay. What is this stupid thing going on here? 11-year-old fatally shot in Houston after ding-dong ditch doorbell ringing prank. He rang the doorbell of home and ran away. He had been ringing doorbells as a prank late Saturday evening, and the prank involves fleeing before someone inside the home opens the door. All right. Not a good idea. I don't know. When you're 11 years old, that kind of thing seems like a good idea, but it's not. Okay. All right, let's go to Breitbart, see what's going on there. Never felt better. Trump trolls leftists spreading rumors of his death. Sebastian Gorka, school CNN's Connor over transgender mass shooting connection. Okay. Rudy Giuliani injured, hospitalized after vehicle struck from behind at high speed. All right. No more in-state tuition discounts for Kentucky illegal aliens. Okay. Here's another PragerU teacher test that had leftists freaking out. Right, let's see. We like to know what freaks out leftists. Let's see what it is. Okay. Can you pass this test? Education relocating to Oklahoma who wish to get a teaching job in the state must pass an assessment designed by conservative organization PragerU in order to earn a certificate that allows them to teach in Oklahoma schools. This is meant to ensure this, that, of course, which chromosome pair determines biological sex in humans? Okay. Yeah, I can see how that would do. So the test with the multiple choice provides AABB, XXXY, RHAB, and XCXQ as possible answers. Come on. All right, yeah, if you don't know that, you definitely do not qualify to be a teacher. How many total U.S. senators are there? The lists are 435, 535, 150 in the multiple choice section. Okay. All questions of the PragerU assessment are multiple choice. After selecting an answer, the assessment immediately informs the test taker whether or not they have answered correctly. I love that. If the wrong answer is selected, a message will pop up saying, sorry, that is not right, giving the teacher a chance to try again. The public can also take the test themselves on PragerU's website. Oh my goodness. Shall we do this? It's a holiday, right? Take the test. Let's take the test. Oh, I'm not sharing this with you. Definitely need to share this with you. Okay. So these are the questions. What happened? What happened? Where'd it go? Talking. No. What happened here? Okay, there we go. Oh, we got a good person name. Oh, a phone number. Oh, I don't want to do that. Cancel that. Cancel that. Sorry. Cancel. I don't want to give my name and phone number. Too many spam emails coming already. All right, you can take the test if you like, if you want to teach in Oklahoma. All right, let's see. I'm not going to teach in Oklahoma. Okay. Let's see. What were we doing? We were doing Breitbart. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Let's look at the questions. According to the Supreme Court cases, Meyer versus Nebraska and Pierce versus Society of Sisters, who has the ultimate right to direct a child's education? A, the superintendent of schools, B, the parents, C, the Board of Education, C, the Federal Department of Education. Okay, well, I guess we can guess B, although I'm not familiar with those cases. What is the fundamental biological distinction between males and females? A, height and weight. B, blood type. C, personal preference. D, chromosome and reproductive anatomy. Okay, yes, all right. D is pretty obvious. Right? 3, how is a child's biological sex typically identified? A, parental affirmation of child's preference. B, personal feelings. C, visual anatomical observation and chromosomes. D, online registration. Okay, C is the answer there. And then, okay, there are a whole bunch of those. All right, and this number of senators, we did that. Why do some states have more representatives than others? A, representation is allocated by population. B, they cover a large geographic area. C, they have held statehood for a longer period. D, the number is determined by Congress. All right. A is the answer there. Okay, all right. Yeah, the state of education in America is pretty sad. Okay. Trump administration blocked from returning child and youth migrants to Guatemala. Well, temporarily, at least, yes. And Rosie takes back claim trans shooter was a Republican MAGA person. She says, I messed up. Well, finally starting to admit something. And let's see here. Okay, Boston mail fraud inspector charged with stealing $330,000 from elderly victims. Yeah, so yeah, you got to do this stuff online now and make sure that you're doing it safely. Trump versus Illinois Democrats. Yeah, that's going to be quite a showdown, isn't it? But President Trump is serving a constituency that has been ignored, that has been sidelined by the Democrats. You know. And here, no exceptions, President Trump to sign executive order requiring voter ID in elections. All right, well, we'll see how that stands up in court. I doubt that it will pass. Okay. Well, yeah, NFL season is beginning, isn't it? Okay. Tim Walz weighs emergency legislative session on gun control. Of course, yes. Bad guy used guns to kill somebody. So what shall we do? What shall we do? What shall we do? Oh, I know. Let's take guns away from good people. Yes, of course. Then everything will be all right. All right. Okay. It's okay. China, India pledged to mend ties amid tariffs. We'll see how long that lasts. Afghanistan earthquake kills more than 600. We need to get to a point quickly where we're able to govern God's creation the way He intended us to. Of course, we'll still have earthquakes in Cheongguk, yes, but we will know a lot more of how to prevent the human toll. Japan has gone a long way in figuring out how to build buildings that don't collapse in earthquakes. And I'm sure they can do even better, but countries, if countries were economically more affluent, then they could copy what Japan is doing. But there needs to be a evening out. As Father used the word "평준화," right? So leveling out of economic, not just economic, but also access to technology and access to opportunities. Right? Father was never in favor of equal results. He was in favor of equal opportunity, but also Father is saying that, right now, U.S., Western Europe, Japan, Korea people there have all these options and opportunities, right? But these are opportunities that are not available to a vast number of people in the world. And everyone should have the same access to the same opportunities. Then they can succeed or not, depending on their 5% responsibility and also the gifts that God has given them. But Father, though, if you look at his theory of education, you'll see that he believes that everyone is a genius or potential genius. So we're getting there. We have a long, long ways to go, but we're certainly getting there. And I think that the situation with President Trump is certainly allowing us to get there more quickly. And he's upended the world order. That is true, and some of the things that he's doing I don't agree with, but still he's creating a situation where a lot of change, a lot of good change, can take place. So we'll see how it goes. All right, that's it for today. And tomorrow is Tuesday. Tomorrow will be the 2nd of September. And so I will be back. We're preparing for the Holy Day on the 8th, next Monday. And that will be held from 7 a.m. Taiwan time. So it'll be broadcast from 7 a.m. Taiwan time if you'd like to participate in that online. All right, God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.